This is your ship. It's a Kitty Hawk. It was built in the United States, but ever since it came out of its crate in an Australian hangar, Australians have flown it. You're the leader of this Kitty Hawk squadron. You come from Armidale. You're 23 years old. You won your wings 4 years ago. You've been on over 200 operational flights since then. Now, you're off again. The Allies are reaching out towards Tokyo. They're leapfrogging across the Western Pacific. One of those leaps is on today.
Oh, g'day everyone, it's Warren here from NQ Explorers on another outing. I'm back to the site of a World War II Royal Australian Air Force base in Queensland that was used by the RAAF, the United States Army Air Force, and the remnants of the Dutch East Indies Air Force were here when they were pushed out of Java by the Japanese invasion. So this is my second sortie in here. It's pretty overgrown, but I got a couple of nice little relics out here last time. There are some substantial concrete remains of ablution blocks and that kind of thing. There's actually a hangar slab further down the road. I'll have a crack around the area I was in last time. It's quite a large area. It's probably about 10 acres here, just public land. But I'll concentrate on the area where I found the relics last time, because I find it's a bit like these Air Force bases are a bit like race courses. All the activities concentrated in one area. And because the actual facility is so large, you have to find that little one area. There's whole areas of an air base that will have virtually no targets on them. So accommodation blocks, headquarters buildings, entrance gates, that kind of thing. And that's where I am now. Well, I believe I am based on old photographs and maps. So let's get into it. I'll be back shortly with the first relic. Well, here's my very first target, my very first repeatable target of the day. Absolute ripper of a relic, the best you'd expect from this sort of site. It's a half. It's a half of a Royal Australian Air Force cap badge. Look at that. You can see the RA there. So the AF might still be in the ground, eh? That is absolute. That was a 78 and it was about 8 inches down. I'm battling the long grass, but what a beautiful find. You see the wreath around the edge there. This is an enlisted rank cap badge. Be off a forage cap. Royal Australian. What a ripper. I'll check the hull and see if the remainder of this cap badge is still there. Well, that's a fantastic start to the day. I got my tail up in the first 3 or 4 minutes. Loving that. Here's my next target. Typical of the finds I was getting at this site last time. I was out here a few months ago. It's the arm off a window latch. Some airman's got a bit of fuse wire tied on there, maybe to hold it open or closed or something. Here's my next target. It's a live dropped 303. In just about pristine condition. We just rebury this live ammunition we find, but look at that. That's just awesome. Look at the brass on the projectile. Nice. Okay. Well, that's typical of what you would expect to find in any of these World War II sites. Well, here's my next find. It's a really nice button back, and it's branded KC Luke, Proprietary Limited, Melbourne. I'm going to suggest it's off a RAAF tunic button. I haven't checked the hole. Let's see if the front's here. If it is a RAAF button, the front will be a wedge-tailed eagle with the crown, which is the RAAF emblem, of course. So that's a nice find. It was a 76, a little bit jumpy though. It was probably sitting at a strange angle in the soil. So let's just recheck this hole, eh? Okay, I'm getting nothing in the hole. Actually, there's a little, I don't know, if it's just a scrap of brass, what we'll do, it'll be a little bit tricky here. We'll just, maybe you can see the screen there, a bit of contrast. We'll go to all metal mode on the max. It's getting a hit in that hole. Go back to custom. It's only a 1 or a 2. I might have a little scratch around here and see if I can find something else, but it doesn't look like the substantial front of that button exists anymore. Just to demonstrate the sort of signals and conditions, this, as you can see, it's quite long dry grass. Probably needs to be slashed, or there's going to be a pretty dangerous fire through here in the springtime. Anyway, Now, see that jumpy signal there? Jumping from 82, 63, 75. Could be another window. Let's go around right angles. Now it's down to 65. I also note that the battery's down pretty low. I'll have to go and change my batteries back at the Land Rover shortly, but that's a high tone target, but it's the target ID's different in both directions, so it'll be an odd shape, or it's I don't think it's going to be junk. It could be linear like a window latch, but we'll have a dig and see what's there. Well, the proof's in the pudding. It was a window latch. As you can see, it's an irregular shaped metal object. I'm not sure how it's sitting in the ground because I disturbed it, obviously. So as you saw, we were getting target IDs into the low 80s and back into the 60s, depending on how the coil swept across it and what my distance from the object was. But this is a typical find in here. There's lots of these things in here. There were asbestos buildings, you know. There's little bits of asbestos sheet, so obviously they were removed somewhere else after the war and reused, but for some reason all the window hardware ended up in the ground. On we go. I just want to show you this target ID here, as opposed to that window latch which we dug about 10 minutes ago. This is a lot more consistent in both directions in 90 degrees. Actually, now suspiciously high, 89.90. 89.90 now. Could I iron check that? No, it's not iron. Listen, if this is a coin, it's going to be a florin. But as you can see, much more consistent target ID than what we were getting on that window latch, which varied in both directions. Okay, let's have a crack at digging this. Actually, we might go live in the faint hope it actually is a 2-bob piece. Haven't got one out of this site yet, so let's see how shallow this is. We'll check it with the pinpointer. Okay, it's there. I've got the Z-Link pinpointer today, but I haven't got the headphones on. Don't really need them. Like wearing a big hat for the sun, and plus you can't hear what's going on. So let's stretch around this, see what we got. Okay, what's this? Here it is straight away. Okay, well that's what it was going to be if it wasn't a florin. It's a large brass ring. Oh, it might even be stainless steel. Could be an aircraft part, eh? Check that out. Good bit of metal. It is stainless. Interesting. Hence there's a very high target ID. Okay, well light conditions aren't ideal here. As you can see, we've got dapple light. We're in a little grove of trees. That definitely wouldn't have been here in 1942. Here, I've got a 7980. Could be a good recovery, this one. Let's have a look in amongst the roots here. Won't be far down, I don't think. It's a pretty loud signal on the proportional audio on the AT Max. Okay, it's out already. I didn't see anything come out. Up in here somewhere. Oh, it's another window latch. Obviously that one was lying flat like that, so it presented really well to the coil. Doesn't get much better than this. Look at this, it's a beautiful winter's day. It's 26 degrees out here, it's just perfect for metal detecting. What a great day to be out. Well, I just got a lovely piece of trench art. Let's have a look at this together. It was an 87-88, very shallow. Didn't register as a large object like those window latches. Let's have a look at this one, it's a ripper. Here it is here. Just come out of the hole. It's a cut penny, kangaroo penny. And look, the airman in question has been fashioning a kangaroo badge out of the penny. You can see he's cut the underneath around the tail on the leg, and job was unfinished. Probably got called to do some menial task, and he dropped his penny. But that's just a ripper. I love that kind of personal history. The last man to touch this was a World War II RAAF airman. Let's hope he made it home safely to his family. Absolutely awesome bit of history. Actually, you can see where he's cut that last cut. He's come down towards the back of the kangaroo's head and its ear, and that's where he's dropped the job. That's how far around the penny he's got. Bit of an artisan too. It was going to be a nice job. Okay, that's the hole. I just got that bit of trench art kangaroo out of. I haven't filled it in yet, obviously. Just an update on what I'm doing. I've got AT Max International, and I've got the standard coil on it. The reason being that the grass is so long, I can't actually get the coil to the ground. So I'm sort of hovering 2 or 3 inches above the soil, so I need that bigger coil to get the depth and penetration into the ground. If the grass was shorter, or maybe later in the year, and there's been some event here like a fire or something, or someone's cut it, which isn't going to happen, I'd use a smaller coil, but for the time being I'll stick with that standard coil. So this area where I've found this bit of trench art is an obvious area to stick around for a little while, because this is where there was either a tent or the steps of a hut or something like that. I'm literally a metre from that cut penny. This is a solid 7980, 81 in the bottom here. Pretty promising. Could be more trench art, or cut coins, or a complete coin. Who knows? That's the absolute excitement of rally cutting. You don't know what you're going to get. What's going to come out of the next hole? What do we got? Ooh, it's a button front. Smaller than the earlier one. Hey, I hope this is an RAAF badge. Button rather. It's got a lot of detail on it, but it's just the front of the button. Old mate was carving pennies and buttons were popping off his tunic. Let's have a look at this close up. I'll give it a bush clean. Okay, incorrect as usual. It's a button back. You can see the loop squashed. Probably an RAAF button. Could be an army button, because the army definitely would have been here too. But I'll identify a maker's name and subtitle it once I clean this, so I don't want to get home. Well, this one's a 7980. I'm now 3 metres from that carved roo penny in the button back, so this little area is producing. And I should have gone live alright, because I think it's a coin. Yes it is, it's a penny. 7980. Looks to be in glorious condition too. Let's get this clean and get it up close. It's going to be a wartime kangaroo penny. Repper. Okay, bush cleaners had a little effect. It's caked in clay. There's a little bit of corrosion in it actually. I can see there's a Kinjog's a 6. I can see he's smiling to the left there, so it's a kangaroo. And the date will be under the tail around there somewhere, so I'll give that a clean at home. We'll get some pictures. Nice. Right, you'll just have to bear with me here. I think I've got a silver coin and I haven't even disturbed any ground. What kind of optimist says that? But anyway, up in there, I can get the camera set up. Up in here, got a very solid, repeatable, compact 83. That's the phone I'm hearing. I'm pretty sure this isn't a window latch. Watch me be wrong. Let's get it straight back and check it with a pinpointer. There we go. Right there. What's this going to be? Okay, it's out already. Okay, we're wrong, but I like to be wrong this way. Have a look at this. We've got a complete, and I can tell because I used to wear one, World War II, well I don't wear a World War II version, RAAF cap badge. Okay, so we've got a half earlier on. Wow, that was an awesome signal as you'd expect, beautiful brass. It's got one lug I can see. I'll give this a careful clean. I'll have a look at it. What an absolute ripper. Well, it's nice to be wrong sometimes. Well, there she goes. That's as much as I dare clean it out in the field. That has made my day as ex-Air Force. I just love seeing that kind of World War II RAAF history. I've done a lot of army camps over the years, of course, and literally dug hundreds of rising suns, but not many airfields. I did a series of videos on Cape York several years ago on an airfield that was rich in relics, but I never found one RAAF cap badge. That's not so surprising in those forward areas because they didn't wear dress uniforms or badges and buckles so much because it was an operational airbase and it was under attack. So you don't run around with badges and buckles on necessarily. But here, as a staging base, yes you do. So look at that. I'll give that a clean and we'll get some photos of it, still photos up close to appreciate that beautiful military relic, a proud part of Australian military history, an RAAF cap badge. What a ripper. Right, here's another long shot of a live dig after the excitement of that last one. I thought that was silver, but far better than any silver coin I've ever dug. Out here, pretty compact 84, 85. I'd like to say it's a sixpence, but we'll see. Once again, I don't think it's a window latch. Nice if there's another cap badge. Trying to get greedy there. Better leave something for next time. Let's see what's in this hole now. Okay, still in the middle of the hole there. Won't be much further down. Here it is. Just saw it come out. Looks like another button bat. Oh no, it's not. What is it? No, I'm wrong. It's a coin. I'm pretty sure. Well, that looks to be a halfpenny, but that was an awfully high tone for a halfpenny. Okay. Hope you can see that. I'll get it up close and we'll clean it. Righto, well, it's a King George VI. Pretty sure it's 1943 halfpenny. You can probably see that there. The kangaroo hopping to the right. Australia. Nice. Okay, I'm just heading down the track a bit. I've finished detecting there for the day. I've got to leave some for next trip and for Colleen. And we'll just pull into the bush up here and we'll do a bit of a wrap-up of finds. I don't normally do a wrap-up, but there's some interesting finds there today. And we'll talk a little bit about the history of the RAAF and that base in particular. So back shortly. Okay, well, here's a quick look at the finds from today. The first significant find was that half a cap badge, RA, Royal Australian Air Force. Then a Trenchard kangaroo penny being cut up and dropped. Button backs, the one on the left's from Melbourne manufacturer. Now this penny's interesting. It's a 1938 George VI, but it's been painted yellow on the tail side, which indicates to me that it was a 2-up coin. So I should have concentrated pretty hard on that spot, but I know where it was. As you can see, it's been painted yellow. And that was typical. I've found it before with crosses on them, white crosses or red crosses, so that everyone standing around can watch the coins fall and see whether it's heads or tails from a distance. Then there's this halfpenny, which is a 43, and that magnificent other ranks cap badge from World War II, Royal Australian Air Force. Really happy with that. That was a fantastic day out. Like I said, I didn't want to spend all day in there and hammer it, because I'd like to come back with Colleen and get a few more videos out of it. Lots of fun in there, but very long grass, so that'll change as the season progresses, and I'm sure there's more finds to be got out of the place. I hope you enjoyed that little outing today. Like I said, I'm going to be back into that area in many times because there's acres to hunt, and it'll be forever to get through it all. And every year and every season things change, grass clumps move, grass is burnt, grass grows back, so it's never the same as it was the last time you were there. But it occurred to me that I've done quite a few RAAF-based videos, and particularly a few years ago when up on the Cape I did some abandoned airstrip videos then. But I thought it might be relevant to talk a bit about the RAAF history, particularly if you're not Australian. You might not be aware of what the RAAF did during both World War I and World War II. So the RAAF is one of the oldest air forces in the world. The Royal Air Force was formed in 1918 from the Royal Flying Corps, and the Australian Army formed the Australian Flying Corps during World War I. We had 5 squadrons in Western Europe and Mesopotamia, and was the only Commonwealth country to form a flying corps, and we had several aces during that war in SE5s, DH5s and Sopwith Camels. So after the war, the Army disbanded the AFC, and eventually it became the RAAF in 1921. And World War II took the RAAF by surprise, just like all the Western Allies. It was under-equipped, undermanned, but committed heavily to the war in Europe when the Germans invaded Western Europe. The RAAF committed. We ended up with several heavy bomber squadrons in Bomber Command. We made many raids into occupied Europe and lost a lot of men doing it. And of course we had Desert Air Force. We were part of the Desert Air Force. We had 3 squadron there with Tomahawks, and Clive Caldwell of course was an ace from that. 3 squadron ended up in Italy when the Allies pushed up the Italian peninsula in 43. But of course when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor and Darwin in December 41, things changed because it was very close to home. So the RAAF eventually grew to the point where at the end of World War II it was the 4th largest air force in the world, behind the US Air Force, the Red Air Force and the RAF. Of course the Luftwaffe and the Imperial Japanese Air Forces were vanquished, which was, says a lot for a country the size of Australia to have such a large military force in the air. The famous Black Cats, the Catalinas, flew overt missions, covert missions rather, and overt missions, right through the Pacific, supporting coast watches and submarine patrols. and the RAAF was heavily involved with the US 5th Air Force. The famous 75 Squadron was the only squadron between mainland Australia and the Japanese onrush. When they were in Port Moresby, they were pretty much wiped out, but wrote the history books. It was kind of mini Battle of Britain as far as the Australian public was concerned at the time. Very famous RAAF squadron, which exists to this day with FA-18s. So by the end of the Second World War, very large training organisation, very large operational force. The first tactical air force was in existence, and we ended up with several wings of B-24 heavy bombers, which undertook strategic bombing of all through Southeast Asia, right to the end of World War II, and the Japanese surrender after the nuclear bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And then, of course, the RAAF went on to occupation in Japan, and then fought in the Korean War with Meteors and Mustangs, and then, of course, Vietnam and on to modern times. But World War II was a very large force, large number of personnel. We had the modern aircraft that we needed by the end of the war. We had Spitfires, we had Mustangs, P-40s, of course, which were the backbone of the RAAF fighter force. We had several, almost 1,000 P-40s operationally. So that was the RAAF commitment to World War II, and it was very large and it was widespread. And old Air Force bases are strewn across Northern Australia, of course, and training establishments further south, where they were out of the reach of Japanese bombers like Cunderdin in WA and Tocumwal in New South Wales. But and that's a potted history, the World War II RAAF experience. It was that's just a touch on it. Of course, we had all sorts of wonderful stories that can be told from that, and wonderful exploits from RAAF air crews in their Beauforts, Boomerangs, Spitfires, P-40s, just amazing stories. And I love digging up that kind of history. That's why the significance of that the World War II cap badge. Like I said, I dig a lot of rising suns because Australian Army was very large, of course, too. And I've hunted a lot of Australian Army sites. The RAAF cap badges are not so common. I probably dug a half a dozen in the 40 years I've been metal detecting. So that had my heart racing when I saw that come out of the ground. I thought it was silver at first, but that's way better than any silver coin I could find. I'm really happy with that. So look, thanks for joining me today on that little adventure. We'll be back out there in the coming weeks in this glorious winter weather. And happy fossicking to you all. Bye for now.